G'day guys, welcome back to the channel. Here we are with round 20 of the AFL. So let's have a quick recap about what happened last week in round 19. And if you like the video, please like and subscribe. As I do every week, I will also do Flash Crows tips. So make sure you go over to his channel and also give him some love as well. So last week we had Essendon and the Bulldogs. They actually played pretty terribly. Essendon, I think I actually kind of like Essendon, the way they're playing, but they didn't show up this week for some reason. Bulldogs are still hanging on, still struggling to score, but they definitely had a good game. Richmond got over the line against Hawthorn. Hawthorn should have won that game. Richmond just kicked a couple of clutch goals when they needed to, but really tight game. It just shows you either how far Richmond have fallen or how far the Hawks have gone up. But really fantastic game, probably the game of the round until we got to Sunday. Carlton absolutely destroyed the West Coast Eagles. Charlie Curnow kicked 10. He's actually kicked 19 goals against West Coast Eagles this year, which calls into question about the Coleman medal, whether it's fair if you play the West Coast Eagles twice. And then we went to the Lions against the Cats. Interesting game. Lions absolutely smashed the Cats in the middle and kept them to 53, but also Geelong kept us to 64 at home at the Gabba, where we averaged about 104 points. And they were in the game all the way through and, only losing the game by 11 points. So don't beware of the Cats. They're a dangerous team. But a good win, good gutsy win by my team. Fremantle got touched up by the Swans. Fremantle are hopeless. Swans starting to get their mojo back, starting to like we expect the Swans to play hard, tough football, and yeah, they're looking good again, even though they're sitting on 14th or 13th or something. So big drop for them, but at least they're starting to get their game style back. An absolute fantastic game between Port Adelaide and Collingwood. Collingwood did it again. They pulled the genie out of the bottle, and they seem to just keep being able to will themselves over the line, which is a fantastic thing for them. And it's a great mentality, a great attitude to have at a football club. So no matter how far behind you are, you can always come back and win. Port Adelaide played extremely well, should have won the game. I think the champion data expected scores was Port Adelaide to win by 5 goals. Collingwood just kept kicking those clutch goals as they always do. Jamie Elliott, what a fantastic player he's turned into. He had a really poor start to the year. He was questioned, and I think he's probably the best player in the last 6 weeks, which is difficult for me to say about a Collingwood player. The only problem I have with Collingwood is how long can you keep doing this for? I don't want to see Collingwood be 5 goals down on the last quarter of a prelim or any final or a final to get into the grand final and they've got to kick 6 goals. They shouldn't be in that situation. Really, if you have a look at all the legend teams over the last 30 years, they hit you hard and they put you to sleep. And I just feel like Collingwood need to learn that part. And if they learn that part, well, then we are talking about a serious team that could really go on and win 3, 4, 5 grand finals. Giants are playing extremely well. I know they're only playing the Suns, but really, really good effort for GWS. They've won 6 out of 7 now. Suns are nowhere. They're in the wilderness again. Even getting rid of Stewie Jew hasn't helped them, never will help them. But well done to GWS, they're playing really, really well. Melbourne had a really gutsy win over Adelaide. Adelaide are going to rue 4, 5, 6 games this year where they've they've lost games by, 4, 3, 2, 1 points, and they might miss the finals because of just those couple of about 5 minutes of play. So Melbourne, 2 big wins in the last 2 weeks, keep their season, not their season alive, but to keep them in touch with the Lions. So well done to Melbourne. I rate Melbourne. They're a really tough team. Got excellent midfield, got excellent back line. It's just their scoring. But if they can put that together, like they did this game, where they're actually efficient in front of goals, then they can be really scary. Let's have a look at our ladder. We've got Collingwood on top, 2 games in front. Port Adelaide still proving everyone in the footy world wrong. They're doing a great job. I don't know how many players are playing injured. Dixon was hobbling after a minute, and his effort just to put the ball to the ground was fantastic. Lions are sniffing around Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide have to keep winning. Lions have to keep winning if they want to keep that second spot. Melbourne pushing up the Lions' bumhole. And then Bulldogs have gone into 5th. St Kilda, I don't know how St Kilda are 6th, but they are. And it looks like with their run home, with the teams that they're playing, they probably should make finals. I don't think they're going to scare anyone, but they definitely don't. They're not playing like a team that's 6. GWS are pushing to 7, which is a great effort for them. So I think they're definitely going to play finals. Cats, like I said, scary. Carlton just on the 8. Richmond are pushing back on the door. Essendon on the door. Swans back in contention. And I think Adelaide are just starting to falter a little bit. But I haven't had a look at their draw, whether they've got a couple of easy games coming up. But it's such a tight net between 5 and 4, not 14. The Suns are out of it now. They can't. But isn't it interesting that Adelaide and Gold Coast Suns have the same wins? And Adelaide is such a better team than the Gold Coast Suns, or vice versa. That's interesting. Fremantle are hopeless and they've won 7 games. So they've obviously played the bottom 3 teams twice. All right, so there we go. There's our recap. Bad news for Will Ashcroft at the Lions. He's done an ACL, so he's going to be out for the rest of the year, and he'll be out for half of next year. But as we saw with Cam Rayner, that can be a good thing. They work on your body. They make sure they strengthen it. And then if you saw when Cam Rayner did his knee, and then when he came back, he was 20 kilos heavier, stronger, fitter. So it might actually be a good thing for the young guy, but it is a shame to see it happen. So let's go to round 20. So it kicks off today. So I'm making this video late. It's early morning here in the Philippines. Then we're starting off tonight with absolute ripper between Collingwood and Carlton. I would have loved to have seen this game with Carlton at full strength just to check Carlton, because they've got about 5 missing or something like that. So, how can they stack up against Collingwood? We've seen that if you put pressure on Collingwood, they can get the collie wobbles, but they still find a way. So I'm going to go Collingwood here. I don't think Carlton can pressure them, and it could turn into a bit of a blowout. So let's go 26 points at the MCG. But isn't it great for the AFL that we've got these 2 big clubs that are actually competitive again, which is fantastic for not just the supporters of the 2 clubs, but it's good for AFL supporters. Then we go to LGBTQ plus stadium, where Geelong has got to absolutely smack Fremantle across the face. So that is not even worth talking about. Geelong's just going to win that game by so far. Now this is a really interesting game. We've got the Bulldogs against GWS at Mars Stadium, which is Ballarat, or the Rat, I think. It's at the Rat. So it's a home game for the Bulldogs. They're at 89% here. There's no way in the world they should be that close. This is a 50-50 game with the way that the GWS is playing. And we should look at the weather. The weather is important because if this is a wet game, either one of these teams can win. I think GWS are playing better than Western Bulldogs, but it's such a conflicting game because I think the Western Bulldogs have the two best players in the league. I think Bontempelli is the best player, and then I think Libba is the next best player in the league. And it's really surprising that they're only at 5. Their midfield, like I said, Bulldogs don't want for anything, and I hope they get their game plan together and they can start pushing, because when they're on, they're on. But I'm going to go Giants here in an upset. So let's go the Giants to upset the Bulldogs in their home regional match. All right, Suns, Lions in the Q clash. It's at Carrara. Lions will dish out a whipping to the Suns. I think we've won the last 14 of them or something like that. Essendon Swans. Now here's a definite warning game for Essendon. If Essendon want to play finals, they must win this game. So if they can win this game, they can go as far as 5. So coming from, where are they now? 11. So if all those teams above them lose, so Carlton can lose, Richmond can lose, GWS can lose, St Kilda can lose, Bulldogs can lose. So if Essendon win this game, they can realistically jump up to 6 or 7 if they have a good win against the Swans. Will they? I don't think so. I think the Swans are back in form, even though it's at Marvel. The Swans play all right at Marvel. There's no hoodoo against the Swans playing anywhere. So I think the Swans will put Essendon to sleep. They've had a good year. I know the pundits are saying that whether it's going to be a disappointment year for Essendon. I think it's been a really positive year for Essendon. They've got a new coach. They're starting to play decent football again. They look like they've got a good attitude, good positivity, and let's hope that, in the next couple of years we can get another strong Victorian club back and going again. Then we go to the showdown. We got the Crows against Port Adelaide. Really interesting match here. These are always close. It doesn't matter whether the Crows are last on the ladder and Port are number 1, or Adelaide are number 1 and Port are last. These are always close games. This is a super, super interesting rivalry. Port are a bit banged up at the moment. Adelaide are not travelling as good as what they should be. You would assume that Port would win this one. But maybe, just maybe, sitting in second place, I think Ken might rest Dixon, might rest a couple of players, just because these games can be so brutal. So I'm actually going to go Adelaide to win this one. I don't know why. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I just think that Adelaide playing at home against Port Adelaide, it's a tough game. I think they can just be a little bit quicker than Port. Hawks and St Kilda, another huge warning game for St Kilda. Alright, it's at Marvel Stadium, but Hawks don't have any problem with that. They live 2 kilometres away from Marvel. So St Kilda are not travelling so well. Like I say every week, they can't score. They can't do anything. The King boys hopeless. They can't kick a goal unless it's 10 metres out from the sticks. Their pressure is pretty terrible. Hawks are playing well, playing a lot better than what they are. So I'm going to go against, the 16th team against the 6th team. So I'm going to go Hawks to upset St Kilda. Richmond, Melbourne, at the MCG on Sunday. Great game here. Richmond good enough to keep Melbourne to a 80-point score, something like that. We all know Melbourne's problem. Melbourne can't score. They need to work out their forward line, their midfield, their back line. Everything is perfect for Melbourne, except that they can't kick goals. And it's been a problem for 3 years, and they've still won a grand final in that time. Why they got Benny Brown, I've got no idea. He's hopeless. Then they recruited Shacky, of all people. Shacky couldn't get a game for the Lions 10 years ago. Couldn't get a game for Western Bulldogs. And they were thinking that guy was going to come in and solve their goal kicking problems. Hasn't had a game since. I think he's played twice for them. So they've got to fix that. If they can get someone, I'd be pulling someone out of their seconds. Just give them a go, and if they could get someone who can just pop up and kick a goal. Melcham's been fantastic for the last 2 weeks. Richmond, they've got the same problem. They're very dangerous when they're on, but their defensive work is pretty ordinary. So I think Melbourne's defence will be much better than Richmond, even though Shea Bolton and that they can be devastating. But I think with Riewoldt, he's past his prime now, and Dusty doesn't seem to be, even though his stats are quite good and he's a very good impact player, he's nowhere the same as what he used to be. And then we've got the battle of the bottom. So West Coast Eagles against North Melbourne. How could you go against North Melbourne in this one with West Coast Eagles? It is at home. You still got to go North Melbourne. I think North Melbourne are playing quite well. I like a couple. They were a bit robbed last week with a couple of decisions here and there. A couple of soft ticky touch free kicks against them with LDU running through the midfield could have changed the game. So let's go North Melbourne to be the West Coast. So there we are. So we've got Collingwood, Geelong, GWS, Lions, Swans, Adelaide Crows, Hawthorn, Melbourne, and North Melbourne. Also, just to recap, last week I got 4 out of 9. So I've been going absolutely hopeless. And I haven't even had a look at what Flashcrow got, but I'll put it down under his photo. So hopefully your team wins on the weekend. I hope you have a good time. Enjoy the football. It's going so quickly. We're already at round 20. Soon it will be finals. Go over and show some love to Flashcrow, and we'll catch you in the next one. See you then.